Before we really get into the video, this is going to break down some mistakes that sellers can make in this market. If you want to avoid these mistakes, click the link in the description below to get my free seller's guide. And if you want a more in-depth way on how I handle the sales with my clients, click to get my Carpino Cares method for free, absolutely no cost to you, in the description box as well. If you're selling your home right now, there's some things you really need to consider when doing so. Right now, the market is slowly shifting, which is fantastic. If you are thinking of selling your home, it's going to get the wheels turning a little bit more than it was in the dead of winter. But the things you really need to consider are, how important is this move to you? Is it something you need to do right now? Or is it something that we're just putting your property on the market in hopes that you get a price that you're happy with? In a lot of cases, if somebody is not motivated to sell their house or there's no rush, the actual opportunity to sell your house can come and go as quickly as you can imagine. In some cases, your house can be sitting on the market for months and months and months on end. And if you're a seller in this position, in this market, all that is going to do is give the buyers one of two different impressions. Impression number one is that it's going to give you the impression that the seller is not reasonable whatsoever. You're going to get the impression that the seller either has no motivation to move, does not want to actually sell the home unless they get a price that they're happy with, and it's really not going to get you too excited as a buyer. Secondly, if your home is sitting on the market for a prolonged period of time, and when I mean prolonged period of time, I mean longer than your average days on market, what this is going to mean, buyers are going to be looking at you compared to the other properties that have sold, and they are going to hope to negotiate with you. The longer period of time you're on the market, the more the buyer is going to want to negotiate with you. If you're not willing to negotiate, you're going to find yourself in a rock and a hard place, because you've been on the market long enough where you have a good sample size for what the market value is for your property. You may have turned down some offers potentially, and you might be kicking yourself at this point. But you have to make a decision here. The decision is either sell your house because you need to sell and you want to sell, or you might have to actually pull your house from the market. What I mean by this is, if you are just trying to test the market and get a price that you're happy with based on an imaginary number that you've possibly made up in your head, we need to really reconsider where things are at. If this number is not realistic based on your time on the market, based on the comparable sales that have come up recently, we need to know if it's worth being on the market and damaging the credibility of your listing. I'm sure a lot of agents are happy to have a listing regardless of if it's moving or not, but ultimately the longer it sits on the market, the worse it is for the potential sale of your property. Even if you were to remove it for the market for a short amount of time, the history of what's happened with your property is still going to be sitting there. So what I think the best thing to do if you're a seller in this position is to really sit down with your agent, sit down with your significant other if there's any other parties involved, and figure out what it is you want from the sale. Do you want to sell to get a price, or do you want to sell because you want to get rid of the property and it no longer suits your needs? If it's an investment property, I know you might be looking at it from a completely different lens. And that lens might be, what are the numbers? What was your down payment originally? What's your potential sale price? What are the commissions that are going to cost to sell the property? Are you leaving this property with any equity left in your pocket? Or are you completely walking away from this as a wash? A lot of these factors are going to be different depending on if you live there or if it's an investment property. But ultimately, the same situation is going to happen regardless of your intent. The buyers are not going to give you your list price if it's been on the market for 4 months, for example. It's just not a realistic expectation. If the market shifts and the market goes up and there's some comparables that start to get closer to your list price, yes, there is a small percentage chance, but there's a larger percentage chance that you're going to ruin your property's reputation and just ultimately not get any showings on your property. So you have to really make a decision what makes the most sense for you as a seller, and you'll have this conversation with your agent, because if your agent is not advising you properly, you're going to really have a tough time selling this when it comes time to sell in the future, because it's going to take a longer period of you being off the market before somebody is going to really consider you guys as serious sellers. If you are on the market for a prolonged period of time, or you just keep listing it, deleting it, relisting it, deleting it, your advantages are gone. It's a buyer who's going to have all the leverage, and as a seller, you'd at least like to be able to negotiate with the potential buyer and not have no leverage in your situation. If you're interested in my particular advice selling your property, I'd love to guide you, and I actually can give you my Carpino Cares method selling system in the description down below. Click the link and a free copy will be there for you. Thank you so much for watching this video. My name is Mike Carpino, and I'll see you in the next video.